If you want to be a good political analyst, there's something very important you need to know. When things are very quiet politically, as they are now, I mean relatively quiet compared to what we have seen in the recent past, in past months, then you need to get very afraid. Why? Because it means politicians are scheming. It means politicians are regrouping. And this should be obvious. Because take a war situation, for instance. The gunfire from the enemy has ceased. There are no grenades being hurled in your direction. What should you do? Should you relax? Yeah, have some food, drink some coke, and say, watu wamechoka. Well, if you do that, utajua hujui. And it is precisely the same with politics, especially Kenyan politics. Now, the question is there any way you can get an inkling as to what political forces on both sides of the political divide are scheming? Is it possible? The answer is yes. And the truth is, there are very many clues all over the place. But the way to identify them is to step back, take a bird's eye view, and what we're looking for, especially, are consistencies. Yeah, things that have happened consistently. Because that will give you a rough idea of the direction, whatever political force you want to look at is taking. Or if you want to look at it from another angle, history. To know the future, you need to understand the past. I believe it goes without saying, there's no way you can be able to analyze politics accurately without fully embracing history. And even recent history. And we're going to get down into that very deeply, very shortly. But before that, a quick reminder. There are some things which have unfolded on our political scene that I have not discussed on this channel. I have not dared to discuss them. And if you are to fully understand where we are in politics in Kenya right now, it is highly recommended that you take in my highly sensitive weekly intelligence briefings. And we have a special offer on them, which you should grab with your two hands immediately, before the offer ends. For only 2,999 Kenyan shillings, or if you're abroad, $29.99, you'll be able to get a full year subscription, which normally costs close to 10,000 shillings. I believe you can see on your screens right now, full details of what you need to do to grab them, the weekly intelligence briefs. Now, of course, immediately subscribe. You'll get past sensitive videos you missed. And these videos have a lot of details, highly sensitive details, of what has transpired in our dear motherland over the last year or so, in reference to what has happened over the last couple of months. Because the truth is, the year 2019 has been one of the most dramatic politically in Kenyan history. Which should tell you, don't be fooled by the fact that it's all quiet on the Western Front at the moment. Something very big is brewing. Now, let's get down to it right away. And let us start with something that many Kenyans have forgotten. Indeed, others have just brushed it off. The deadline of the expiry of the old Kenya shillings 1,000 notes is drawing very close. Because as of end of September, the month we're about to get into, those notes will become worthless paper. Folks, as of 1st of October 2019, that old Kenya shillings 1,000 note you're holding right now, tumia kuwasha jiko. Indeed, a packet of milk, an empty packet of milk, will be more valuable, because it's better for lighting a jiko, than the old Kenya shillings 1,000 notes. By the way, I must quickly hasten to add that it is illegal to ban currency notes. And I'm not a lawyer, but I suspect even old ones, you could run into legal problems. Therefore, I was just giving an example. I'm not suggesting that you ban jikos with them. Or rather, light a jiko with them. Anyway, why is this significant? This is extremely significant because one side of the political divide believes that the other side of the political divide has a huge war chest of campaign funds in old Kenya shillings 1,000 notes. And the frantic efforts being made behind the scenes suggest that this thing is serious. I saw a very interesting question online the other day. Somebody was asking the governor of the central bank if it will be possible on October 1st and thereafter to take the old Kenya shillings 1,000 notes to the central bank and get new notes. You can guess what the answer was. No! You will not be able to take those notes anywhere. Period. They'll be worthless. And so, if the information we have been given so far, from the Keleweke side, that somebody has got a huge war chest, or some people have got a huge war chest of old Kenya shillings 1,000 notes, if that information is correct, then it can only mean one thing, that there are some people somewhere who are getting very desperate. And when people get desperate, they implement desperate measures. Bottom line, you can be sure that there's a lot of scheming behind the scenes on how to get around this problem. Now, let's look at something else. And this is something that has been happening consistently. Now, shortly after the historical handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader, His Excellency Raila Odinga, Majority Leader Aden Duale made a statement that many of us did not understand, including myself. And this was long before Team Tanga Tangas and Team Keleweke had emerged. We had not seen the two sides. All we knew was that there was a handshake, and we were in shock. The battle lines had not yet shaped up. What did Aden Duale say? He said the government will make arrangements to bring back controversial lawyer Miguna. We now know, looking back, that at that time, Aden Duale was firmly in Team Tanga Tangas. But after his statement, we heard nothing more from the government. Because ordinarily, the next thing that would have happened is that the internal CS would have said something, and maybe somebody from immigration, etc., etc. Nothing like that happened. But a few months later, firebrand legislator Oscar Sudi made the statement that Miguna should be brought back into the country. And then last week, Kipchumba Murkomen, on Twitter, apologized to Miguna. Now, that is consistency like clockwork. The way Team Tanga Tangas make careless statements, and statements that just make us wonder what kind of politics they're playing, that can easily be a camouflage, so that we underestimate them and what they're up to. Let me remind you that these people are schemers, like any other politicians, like the Team Keleweke, and they come up with strategies all the time. And so, we need to ask ourselves, why has Miguna become so important so suddenly? When these same people were cheering on, as this Kenyan was being treated so shoddily, being deported from his own country. Indeed, I'm wondering why the Guinness Book of World Records guys have not called on Kenya, to record this historic happening, which has never happened anywhere in history before. Yeah, well, I stand to be corrected. But as far as my knowledge goes, it has never happened before that a native of a country is deported from their home country. Anyway, let us simplify this strategy so that even a standard 2 kid can understand it. Yeah, and I'm not abusing intelligence. Yeah, I just like simplifying things. It is how you're sure you completely understand something. Yeah, according to Albert Einstein, a great scientist. Now, in the days of old, if a nation or a tribe was preparing to go to war, the first thing they would do is to look for the enemies, of those people they're going to war with. The idea being to increase their strength, to enlarge their force, as they're going to war. And this is precisely what Team Tanga Tangas have been trying to do. The only problem is that Miguna will not bite. In other words, so far, he has refused to take the bait. Unfortunately for Team Tanga Tangas, and very fortunately for Team Keleweke, Miguna is not a politician. Because a politician sees an opportunity and grabs it. Miguna sees an opportunity and thinks of his principles. And by the way, I'm not saying that is a bad thing. Indeed, it is something that we badly need in Kenya right now, because politicians have completely messed up our country. If you want to fully understand what I'm trying to say, contrast Miguna with Raila Odinga. Because before the handshake, you'd have sworn that Raila Odinga would never, ever shake hands with President Uhuru Kenyatta. And if you can go a little back in history, in the 90s, you would have sworn that Raila Odinga's NDP would never have merged with Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi's KANU. But both incidences, or both mergers, happened. Both handshakes happened. In my view, in my humble view, Miguna is one of Team Keleweke's biggest blunders. And this man could come back to haunt them. Because nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. But the truth is something Team Keleweke's enemies can exploit very easily. Because one cannot help asking themselves, what is so hard with the government apologizing and humbling themselves and bringing this Kenyan back to the country? What is so hard about obeying a court order? Well, actually, I'll let you into a secret. The circumstances under which Miguna was deported from his own motherland were more personal than political. Let me just leave it at that. Too sensitive. Now, what Team Tanga Tangas are hoping is that Miguna will abandon his principles for a second, face reality, and start playing politics. And so you can be sure they will not give up wooing Miguna. When principled Nelson Mandela was brought out of prison, this great man, very principled man, faced reality in the face. And he decided to grab the opportunity before him for a greater South Africa. The opportunity to shake hands with the people who had made him suffer for so many years. The people who had made him waste his entire life, in prison. The result of his decision was the end of apartheid in South Africa and the new nation we see today. But of course there are many, including his wife, Winnie Mandela, who always felt that Mandela betrayed the cause. He abandoned his principles and betrayed the cause. But history and the world will always view Mandela as a great man. Folks, that is the nature of politics. And sometimes when you want to bring about change, you cannot avoid getting into politics. But I have a feeling Miguna will never budge. Still, as I've said, Team Tanga Tangas will not give up. The long and short of what I've been trying to say in this show is that it ain't over. And the scheming currently going on behind the scenes on both sides of the political divide should very clearly tell us that Kenyans should prepare for round 2 that is going to be much more vicious than the round 1 we've already witnessed. In the battle between Team Tanga Tangas versus Team Kileweke. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.